I represent El Paso, Texas, and El Paso is unfortunately the site of America's largest immigration detention facility. It's known as Camp East, Montana, and it was funded by what Republicans call their One Big Beautiful Bill, which allocated $45 billion $45 billion for immigration detention alone. Camp East, Montana in El Paso is a $1.24 billion facility. Over $1 billion to hold thousands of people. I have conducted 3 oversight visits, and it's been really challenging to get in. As a member of Congress, I should be able to have unannounced visits, and Ms. St. John, I'll be asking you about that in just a moment. But the 3 oversight visits that I've conducted, twice I've been able to talk to a handful of detainees. The first group of detainees that I spoke to were adult men. Many of them had been in our country for 30 or 40 years. They had never committed a crime. Not only did they tell me that, but the color of their uniform told me that. Last week when I was there, I spoke to a group of women who showed me hives on their bodies because of how unhygienic the situation is. During each one of my oversight visits, I hear about rotten food. I hear about the inability to access not just legal services, but to get to their court hearings. I have heard about the fact that while we are paying a contractor to clean daily, because this is a privately run facility, the facility is only getting paid once a week. Detainees are having to wash their own clothes because the subcontractor we're paying for laundry is not doing it, not performing this function. So for Americans who are watching who may not feel moved by the inhumanity of this situation, I certainly hope they are moved by the fact that we have a private contractor pocketing American tax dollars instead of delivering the services that they are contracted to do. So we have contractors monetizing this situation, profiting off this situation, while the American government is providing little to no accountability and limiting congressional oversight. Ms. St. John, during one of my visits, actually each one of my visits, I'm told by detainees that the facility is cleaned up before I get there. And they said, we know someone is coming because suddenly they clean it up. Can you tell us about why it's so important for Congress to have the authority for unannounced visits?
Yes, absolutely. So that surprises me not at all that you've been told that it gets cleaned up. I know that in Arizona we have heard similar stories routinely with the new policy of not allowing unannounced visits. I know that recently our client said, oh, well, we know we're going to get good food next week because somebody's coming to visit. I've also heard clients say, well, the whole place smells like new paint. So it is a serious problem because, an unannounced visit allows members of Congress to see what's actually happening on any given day. Just like anybody else, if you know somebody's going to be coming in and checking in on you, you're on your best behavior. You made sure you cleaned up, the dirty dishes are away, and that's not the reality of what people are facing. When you walk into the medical unit and they knew you were coming, they make sure that their doctors are there. They make sure that they have the medications being provided. And that is not something that actually happens day to day routinely in our facilities. One of our facilities hasn't had a psychiatrist on staff physically present at the facility for over a year, to our knowledge. We have clients with severe mental health issues who have never seen an actual psychological professional in those facilities. And some of them are getting medication, some of them are not. So again, this is why having the ability to do a visit with an unannounced visit is so critical. I would also add the ability to speak to people when you're there, because it's also a very different experience when you walk through and just see what's happening versus being able to talk to somebody about what their experience has actually been. Thank you.
What Representative Veronica Escobar is saying isn't just a retelling of a single visit or one troubling encounter. It's a window into a system whose problems are layered, structural, and largely hidden from public view. When Escobar describes her struggle simply to get inside the facility, a facility funded by federal dollars and theoretically accountable to the people, it signals something deeper, An erosion of transparency where oversight is supposed to be built in. The sheer scale of the detention facility in El Paso is staggering. Over $1 billion to construct, nearly $50 billion allocated nationally for detention through a previous federal package. But what matters is not the number itself, it's how that money translates into the lived experience of people inside. And here, the accounts Escobar shares reveal a profound disconnect between cost and care. When she talks with detainees, she's not speaking with convicted individuals serving out sentences. Many of them are long-term residents of the United States, people who have been in the country for decades, who have families, jobs, and deep community roots. Some have never been charged with a crime. The color of their uniform is designed to reflect that. Yet they find themselves in conditions where basic human needs, clean clothing, hygienic living spaces, reliable access to medical care, are inconsistent or completely unmet. The mention of hives on the bodies of detained women is not just a detail, it's an alarm bell. Skin conditions like that usually point to persistent sanitation problems, poor laundry, unclean bedding, contaminated surfaces, or water issues. These are symptoms, not isolated incidents. And then there's the food. Rotten food isn't simply a quality complaint. In an institutional setting, bad food means a breakdown in oversight, handling, storage, and inspection protocols. It means vulnerable people, dependent on the facility for every meal, cannot trust what they're given to eat. This is not just about discomfort, it's a health risk that compounds every other issue. What's equally concerning is the claim that the facility is prepared or cleaned up in advance of scheduled visits. This alone reveals how essential unannounced visits are. If oversight only happens when those being overseen are warned in advance, then the oversight is not real. It becomes performance, staging, painting, temporary fixes designed to hide routine deficiencies. Ms. St. John's testimony underscores this. She describes situations where detainees themselves joke that they know a visit is coming because the food suddenly improves or the building smells like fresh paint. This is not the sign of a facility confidently adhering to standards. It's evidence of a system aware of its shortcomings and actively concealing them. The absence of medical professionals, specifically mental health providers, for extended periods is another major red flag. Mental health needs in detention settings are often significant, and long-term neglect can lead to worsening conditions, crises, self-harm, and irreversible psychological harm. The fact that some detainees with serious mental health issues have gone a year or more without seeing a licensed professional is deeply troubling. The broader pattern that emerges is one of privatization without accountability. Contractors are being paid, sometimes for services they aren't providing. If laundry isn't being done, if cleaning isn't happening, if health staffing is incomplete, and yet contracts continue uninterrupted, it raises urgent questions about how federal dollars are monitored and how violations are addressed. Facilities like this operate largely out of public view. Most Americans never step inside one. Many may not personally feel affected by what happens there. But Escobar's point is clear. You don't need to be moved only by the human suffering to see the stakes. You can also look at it from the standpoint of governance, how public funds are used, how oversight is enforced, and what it means when institutions funded by taxpayers are allowed to operate without transparency. Ultimately, this testimony is not only about the conditions within a single detention center. It's about the health of our oversight systems, the role of private contractors in public functions, and what accountability looks like when the people most affected are those with the least power to speak. If there's something to take away, it's that transparency is not optional. It's the foundation of public trust. And when transparency erodes, it affects not just the most vulnerable, but the integrity of the entire system surrounding them.